Okay, the things I'm going to share with you are from firsthand experience. And had I known these things, it probably would have saved me a few headaches along the way in my entrepreneurship journey. And I'm hoping that these things can help you on your journey as well. My name is Denver. I run a commercial video production company based in the metro Atlanta area, and I've been doing so for nearly a decade now. And we've generated over seven figures in revenue. The biggest mistake I made from the get go when starting my company was that I thought I had to earn the right to get to make what I wanted to make. I've always wanted to make commercials. That was my passion, but I didn't think that I could just start by making commercials. I thought I had to kind of earn my way. So when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I actually started by making wedding videos. I was a quote unquote wedding filmmaker, and honestly, I was a pretty good one. In my first year as a wedding filmmaker full time, I did over six figures in revenue. As a young solopreneur, this was something that I was ecstatic about. Yeah, it was the American dream, the dream of entrepreneurship, where I could make over six figures doing something that I love video. I saw it as a means to an end, as a way to get where I wanted to be, being a entrepreneur doing commercial video. It eventually became a financial trap. I was in the stranglehold of the wedding filmmaking industry because I was booking myself out seasons in advance, selling my future with every booking. And unfortunately, it wasn't the last time that I fell into one of these financial traps. It can be so appealing when someone comes to you and they want to hire you to do something adjacent to what you do for a reasonable price. I fell into this trap again years later where I was well into my commercial business and someone asked me to start making social media videos for them. And I was again great at it. As a small business, a service based small business, you're essentially selling your time. And so things can very easily become financial traps. So I can't stress this enough. When you're starting your business, just do the thing that you want to do. And as hard as it will be, when someone comes along and they ask you to do something that's not necessarily what you want to do, it's okay to say no. This leads me to my next thing, which is really a two-parter, in that you need to treat your business like a business. This was a mistake that I made pretty early on of not separating my finances, separate the personal from the business. These are two different things. At any given time, you need to know how well your business is doing. If your personal accounts and your business accounts are one and the same, it is impossible to differentiate between how well the business is doing and how well your personal household is doing. You may have a personal finance problem, but not a business finance problem. So you need to differentiate the two. I got set up with my business account pretty early on in my first year of business, but I did make the mistake that I could continue to treat my tax filing the same way I did when I was a freelancer. And that was the biggest mistake of them all. Come tax season the following year, I was pulling my hair out, not knowing what to do. Luckily, I had a friend that was an accountant and I reached out to him and he was able to help me clean up my financial situation for that year and continue to help me as my business grew, added employees, our financial picture changed. We have payroll now. There's all these different moving parts that I was so thankful that I had set up the right person early on when it was just me, because as I've added people to the team, having a person in place, having a company in place that's able to handle all of these financial things so that I don't have to worry about them has been such a blessing. When it comes to taxes, payroll, things like that, not my wheelhouse. As an entrepreneur, you need to know what your strengths are, lean into that, and if it's not a strength, delegate that out. Like I said, I got my accountant pretty early on, but it wasn't until years later that I finally got an attorney. This honestly was probably one of my biggest mistakes I have made. For so long, I just thought hiring a lawyer was going to be too expensive. I kept making this argument to myself that I'm a small business. I can't afford an attorney, but that could not be further from the truth. I couldn't afford to not have an attorney. As a business professional, you need to have legal protection on your side, and you can get that through an attorney. I've had my attorney for quite some time now, but here's what I want to stress. You don't want an attorney after you have a problem. You want your attorney before a problem arises, so you have someone that you can consult with. You want an attorney before you enter into a partnership with a client, so you can have good, solid contracts. This was a mistake that I made so many times early on in my business is I didn't have good, solid contracts. In many cases, all I had was a handshake and a promise that I was getting paid. But when I did have a contract, it was something that I was downloading from the internet and not having it like personalized to my business. Like I said, I thought it was going to be something that was just too expensive for myself and my business, but that could not be further from the truth. You can't afford to not have an attorney if you're in a service-driven business. You can't afford to not have an attorney if you're in business, period. Not only will you have contracts for the clients that you're entering into a relationship with, you'll also have contracts for your employees as you're growing your team. And that leads me to my next thing, and that is to hire fast and fire faster. I'll be honest, I know this can sound really harsh, but it's just the reality of being an entrepreneur that's growing their team. Now, as you're growing your team, it is critical that you figure out who's a good fit and who is not a good fit. You need to figure out who's not a good fit as quick as possible. Obviously, the best time to figure out when an employee is not a good fit for your team is during the hiring process. That's actually something that I want to talk about in another video. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if that is something that you're interested in. If you've brought someone onto your team who is clearly not a good fit, then you need to let them go. It's not good for the team, it's not good for you, and it's not good for the person to prolong that. Now, obviously, there's different ways you can go about letting someone go. Obviously, the kinder way is to help them transition out into another company. So if that's something you're able to help happen, then definitely go with something like that. As you're growing your team, you're probably going to want to get into an office. The first office space that I chose for my company was WeWork. And this was a big mistake. I found out pretty quickly that WeWork and I were not a good fit. And that's why I can't stress enough that you need to find the right office for your business. It's not about just finding a office. It's about finding the right office for the way you work. I moved out of the WeWork back into the home office before we finally moved into a private office space. And this is the right office for us. Had we stayed in the WeWork or even the home office, I don't think we would be able to scale in the way that we are now at my company. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a like. And if you have something that you've learned along your entrepreneurship journey, don't forget to leave that in the comments below. I will be replying to those comments. And if this is the type of content you enjoy, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video.